It had been raining for several days, and there were large puddles on the streets. Mia stood on the veranda of her house, watching this scene. Such heavy rains hadn't happened this year. The woman put on a raincoat and went outside. She changed the bucket at the corner of the house. It had become a habit in the village after a dry summer. In the summer, it was necessary to water the garden, and when there is such a drought, any water is worth its weight in gold. Even now, when the rain comes every other day, the locals still collect water. It has become a habit, and there is less water in the yard as a result. Mia has been married for 10 years, and she and her husband have known each other since childhood, living next to each other their whole lives. They fell in love after school, and now they have a child named Harry. Sam was also born and raised in the same village as Mia. They have known each other since they were babies, as their parents were friends. For many, it was unusual that they started dating. There was nothing between them before that could have suggested they would be inseparable in the future. It all happened by chance. It was summer, and they were swimming in the lake with other teenagers from the village. Then a storm started, and Sam decided to walk the girls home. The last one he walked home was Mia, and since then, they have been inseparable. Many wanted to know what happened between them, but it was their personal secret that no one would ever find out. Mia returned home in the early morning. By that time, Sam had already left for work, and their little son was fast asleep. Mia's husband works in the city and commutes to work every day. Of course, there are also jobs available in the village, but they are not as well paid as the one offered to him in the city. He earns enough money for Mia to be able to stay at home with their son during her maternity leave. Mia adjusted the blanket that covered Harry and stood by his bed for a while before heading to the kitchen to make breakfast. Today, she decided to make pancakes. She searched for flour, which she had taken away from her son the night before. For some reason, he thought that snow could be made out of flour since he missed New Year's Eve yesterday. It was scary to even think about what he might want to do today. Mia smiled and started cooking. The little one was only 1.5 years old, and he had never seen New Year's Eve, but he had heard a lot about it from his mother's stories. Every morning began with her preparing breakfast for the whole family. Even on weekends, she got up early while her beloved husband and little son were still asleep. In general, weekends were her favorite days. Her husband was at home, and that was happiness. She felt sorry for him because he worked tirelessly to bring as much money as possible to the family. Even before Harry was born, they lived in the city, rented an apartment, and both worked for a company. However, each of them dreamed of returning to their native village. And so, after 7 years, they decided that commuting from the village to work would be much cheaper than renting an apartment in the city. They made a joint decision to move to the village. Soon, Mia became pregnant and went on maternity leave. Now Sam went to work alone. Mia's pregnancy was a personal victory for Sam because they had been childless for a long time. Mia had been checked by many doctors, but they all shook their heads. It was just a miracle that happened in this family. It can be said that Sam had always dreamed of being a father. Throughout the pregnancy, Sam closely monitored his wife, not allowing her to lift anything heavier than a cup of tea. Now a little happiness has appeared in their family, long awaited and so desired. Harry constantly amused his parents, like the mess he made in the kitchen while his parents watched TV. Mia's thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. She quickly washed her hands and went to the door. At such an early hour, the neighbor had already come. "Hi, Mia. I'm here on business." "Hi. You're early today with your errands. Could you take my Eva in for a bit? I need to go to the city today." "Yes, no problem," Mia often sat with the neighbor's girl, as her mother was raising her alone. The girl was almost 7 years old and had long been independent. "I'll leave the key with you then. Just go check on her around 10, she'll just wake up." "All right, we have a deal." The neighbor quickly turned around and ran towards her house. A couple of minutes later, she rushed out and ran to the bus stop so as not to miss the bus. Exactly at 10 o'clock, Mia went to her house to pick up Eva. The girl had already woken up and was watching cartoons. "Eva, get dressed and let's go to my place. I'm making pancakes today and Harry won't be so bored." Eva quickly ran to put on her dress. She liked visiting Mrs. Mia. They played different games with Harry, despite the age difference being big. But they still found common activities. After playing a bit at home, they ran to the yard. In the village, children walk around without parental supervision. They had a little house built in the yard where they spent a lot of time. None of the parents ever worried about their children because the village was not a city and everything was peaceful there. In the evening, Diana arrived with big packages. She went to Mia's first to thank her for taking care of the child. "Mia, what would I do without you? God sent me a neighbor. Well, she helps everyone." "Diana, stop it. You know it's hard for us without Alex. Do you even know anything about him?" "I know. They say he recently had a son. How could he leave you alone? I don't understand. What kind of person do you have to be?" Diana's fate was truly difficult. Her husband left her with a small child on her hands, thinking they would manage on their own. He went to work in the city and met some girl there who quickly won him over. And why not? Alex was a good man, well off and handsome. But even such a wonderful man turned out to be not perfect. Diana had long forgotten him, or at least that's what she told everyone who knows. The whole village knew that raising a child alone was very difficult. "Mia, I've always wanted to ask you, aren't you afraid that Sam will leave you? He works in the city, just like my husband. He's completely on his own there when you're not around," said Diana. Mia paused for a moment and replied, "No, I'm not afraid. I trust him completely." Diana looked closely at Mia and saw no uncertainty on her face. After chatting a little more, Diana and Eva went home. Mia started to prepare dinner, as her husband would be home soon. She took out the chicken from the fridge and put it in cold water. Tonight, they would have chicken baked in the oven. Little Harry didn't like any kind of meat, but he did eat chicken. That's why this dish was prepared most often, and Sam liked it too. A lot of time passed with household chores. Harry played in the room and watched cartoons. The woman didn't even notice that it was already 8 p.m. on the clock. She only realized the time when she looked out the window, as the sun was already setting. "Wow, it's already 8. Where's our dad?" she asked the little one, but he just shrugged and continued watching cartoons. The woman took her mobile phone and dialed her husband's number, but Sam's phone was unavailable. Mia's heart began to worry. She sat with the phone in her hands and continuously dialed his number, but it was still unreachable. It was already 10 p.m. outside. The most unpleasant situations that could have happened to her husband appeared in the woman's mind. After waiting for another hour, she decided to go to the city herself and search for her husband, even though she had no idea where to start. She took sleeping Harry in her arms and brought him to the neighbor. "Diana, can you look after him, please? Something happened to my husband, and I need to go to the city," she said. "How do you know something happened to him?" Diana asked. "He always comes home by 7, and it's already 11, Mia explained. "I'll watch him, But do you even have any idea where you'll find him? Maybe he stayed with friends or was delayed at work. You're just going to nowhere. I'll find him for sure. If he went somewhere, he would have definitely informed me. And Diana just shook her head, taking the sleeping Harry and laying him on the couch next to their sleeping daughter. Mia quickly ran home and called a taxi, which she had to wait for about an hour. Her hands were shaking the whole time she waited. Exactly 1 hour later, the car arrived. Why did it take you so long? I'm in a hurry, she commanded. You have no idea what kind of accident there is on the road. It took time to detour it, the driver responded. An accident? The woman shook even more. 2 cars collided head-on. They say there are casualties. And, in addition, one of the cars burned down to ashes. Let's go faster, the woman commanded. They didn't have to drive for long. Literally, after 10 minutes, they were at the scene of the accident. From a distance, the woman realized that it was her husband's car. His car was the one that burned down to ashes. The woman just froze. She got out of the taxi and rushed to her husband's car. Tears couldn't be stopped, and hysteria began. It was fortunate that emergency medical personnel were on the scene trying to help the woman. Let me go to my Sam, she shouted, trying to break through to the burning car. Woman, there's no one there anymore. The body was taken to the city. Are you saying my husband is dead? It can't be. I feel like he's alive. Accept my condolences, there was no one else in the car. No, this can't be. You're lying, she screamed. The police officer held her back, as it was still dangerous to approach the car. There were no firefighters present. The woman screamed so loudly that it could be heard from far away. She couldn't calm down, she didn't want to believe it. The pain tore her apart, she was on her knees next to the burning car and cried. In a moment, her life was over. Could she have ever thought that her fairy tale life with the best man on earth would end one day? What if it's not my husband who died? I understand you're in shock, but you need to accept it. Think for yourself, your husband's car? Mine. Could anyone else have been driving it? No. Another wave of hysteria and tears engulfed her. It was so painful. She was taken for identification, where she lost consciousness several times. After this terrible procedure, she walked out into the street, her eyes no longer seeing anything. Mia sat on a bench in the park. She was no longer crying. There were simply no tears left. What am I supposed to do now? She asked herself out loud. She didn't hear an answer, but instead saw Sam smile in her mind's eye. His voice echoed in her ears, and images of him appeared in her head. How was she going to get through this? Mia began to remember the beautiful life she had once lived, when she was so happy. Her first memory was of their wedding day. Honestly, Sam was the most nervous that day, while Mia remained calm. His hands were even shaking, but everything went away as soon as he saw her. It was the happiest day of their lives. She sat on a bench and looked up at the starry sky, not even noticing when an elderly man sat next to her. He too was looking up at the sky. Don't cry, everything will pass. Time heals very well, he said. You don't understand, my husband died, she replied. I understand. None of us here sitting by the morgue are doing it out of great joy. My Maria also died. I'm sorry, I didn't know. You see, everything that doesn't happen makes us realize that we didn't appreciate everything around us as much as we should have. Did you, for example, ever notice how beautiful the night sky is? I didn't have time to look at it, the woman snorted. That's the same for me now. My beloved wife is no longer here today, and all I have left for the rest of my life is to look at the starry sky. I sincerely believe that everyone who dies goes to this beauty. Maybe you're right. I have a son left. How are we going to live together now? No money, nothing. I'm on maternity leave. You will learn everything. You will have to do it for the sake of your son. Don't worry, everything will work out. The main thing is to believe in the best. I can't live without him, you understand? The woman said, looking up at the starry sky. I love him so much and I can't even imagine how I'll live without him. How am I going to tell my son that his dad is no longer here? I don't understand why this is happening to me. Everything was so good. Why did he leave me? She turned around, but the old man was no longer there. It scared her a little, as he was just here a few minutes ago, but now he was nowhere to be found. After listening for any sounds and looking around, she realized that he wasn't in the park. It became very scary. She quickly called a taxi and went home. When she arrived in her hometown, she picked up her son, quickly telling her friend what had happened. Diana was in complete shock and couldn't hold back her tears. They had known each other since childhood, and now this happened. Mia went home and put her little son in her bed. She kissed him and lay down on the couch next to the bed. Sam was all she could think about. Mia looked at her watch. It was already 5 a.m. She tossed and turned for a long time before finally falling asleep. Then there was the funeral, which was attended by half the village. Harry was sent to his aunt in the city, so he wouldn't see everything that was going on. His dad had gone far away for work. Mia decided to tell him about it later, when he grew up a bit. The funeral was very difficult for her. She couldn't let go of her husband. Thankfully, Diana was there to constantly try to calm her down. After the funeral, Mia quickly fell asleep. She wanted to forget all the horrors she had to go through as soon as possible. Now life was completely different. Her son returned home soon and constantly asked when Dad would be home. But Mia couldn't give a definite answer. At night, she cried, trying not to wake up her son. She constantly remembered that grandfather who promised that life would improve. But it wasn't working out to live without her beloved husband at all. The pain inside her made her want to scream. After Sam's death, everything changed. Mia got a job at a local farm where Diana worked, and little Harry started going to daycare. Now Mia was earning money for her family on her own. She often thought of her husband and couldn't understand how it could have happened. Life was very difficult, and they were constantly struggling financially. Mia was raising her son, trying to give him everything. She didn't pursue any relationships anymore, although there were many men interested in her. One day, she even had an argument with her friend who came to talk to her about her future. Mia, how long can you be alone? Look, Robert can't take his eyes off you. I don't need anyone. I love my husband. You have to understand, he's gone, and you can't bring him back. Diana, it's none of your business, and stop trying to set me up with some random guys. Mia started to argue. Who's setting you up? I just made a suggestion. Diana tried to defend herself. On that day, the friends had a big argument. Diana ran home, and Mia was very hurt by her neighbor's words. Maybe she just didn't understand that there was only one love for a lifetime. All these offers to find some man for Mia were insulting to her. Diana just didn't understand it. Mia went to work during the day and played with her child in the evenings, who was growing up very quickly. She thought that as he grew older, he would just forget about his father. However, Harry constantly remembered him and asked when he would finally come. Mia didn't know what to say anymore. She gave her son some hope that would never come true. It was very painful for her to lie to her child every time, but there was simply no other option. 3 whole years passed. Harry was already a grown boy. He turned 5 this year. He had long been walking to the store to play with the kids from all the houses. Mia was always sure of her son. He was so independent already. Often, looking at him, she saw Sam. So many years had passed, and she still hadn't forgotten his smell, his hands, and his smile. Every night before bed, she remembered the life she had before the accident. This tragedy divided the woman's life into before and after. Life before seemed like a fairy tale, and the life she had been living for the past 3 years was a real hell. This morning, Mia woke up in a good mood, something she hadn't felt in a long time. She started doing housework, and Harry went out to play with other kids. After washing all the dishes and preparing lunch, she sat in front of the TVs her favorite show was about to start. What else did she have to do? Her son had been playing with other kids for a long time. It was much more interesting for him there than with his constantly sad mother. After the show, Mia went to her neighbors. Despite their frequent arguments, the women remained friends. After spending some time there, she went home. Mia had already forgotten what weekends were and what to do in them. Lately, she had been working without weekends. Thankfully, Diana helped take care of her child. It was beginning to get dark. Mia was anxiously waiting for her son, who was unexpectedly delayed and hadn't come home at exactly 7 in the evening. She heard someone clattering in the hallway, and immediately recognized that it was Harry taking off his boots. Mia stepped out into the hallway. "Harry, how many times have I told you to put your boots over here?" She took his boots and placed them in the designated spot. "Mom, I was out walking with Dad." "With Dad?" Mia was stunned. "You must be mistaken. Your dad is far away and won't be back for a while." "What could I be mistaken about?" "My dad came to our place today when we were playing in Ronnie's yard. He called me, and we went for a walk around the village." "What's so surprising?" "He just came back from work." "Are you sure you don't have sunstroke?" Mia quickly started feeling the boy's head. "Mom, why don't you believe me?" "Of course, I believe you. Go watch your cartoons. If you're hungry, there's lunch on the stove," Mia said as she put on her shoes. She quickly ran outside to visit her neighbor, Mrs. Diana, to ask for some calming tea. Diana had brought some excellent tea from a foreign country that was perfect for calming nerves. But as soon as Mia ran outside, her heart nearly stopped as she saw Sam sitting on the bench by the fence. She rubbed her eyes a few times, hoping it was just her imagination. "My dear Mia," she heard a familiar voice. Only her husband called her that. The man stood up and went to her. The woman grabbed her heart and took a few steps back. "Don't come near me, I'll scream." Mia began to threaten. She was seized with terrible fear. "Mia, what's wrong with you?" "It's me, Sam." "You're not Sam. My husband died in a car accident. Don't you dare come near me. I'll scream." Diana ran out at Mia's screams and was also stunned. "Sam? How can this be?" Now both of them needed a sedative. The man looked at the women, who took turns clutching their hearts. "Let me explain everything to you. Let's go inside. The neighbors have already broken all their eyes." "Come to my place," commanded Diana. The women tried to keep their distance from Sam, still thinking that it was some kind of mirage. They entered the house and sat opposite Sam. For some reason, the women were very scared. You could say they were clinging to each other. The story will be very long, so get ready and be patient. Tell us, where were you for 3 years and who was I mourning at the funeral? That day I was held up at work. My phone died. I was in a hurry to get home, but on the way, some man stopped me. He asked me to take him to our village. I thought, anyway, and let him in. We were driving very quietly, but almost near the village, a car came towards us. I couldn't handle it, and as a result, there was this terrible accident. But I didn't die. I was thrown into the bushes. Very far away, no one found me. I was picked up by people from another village, as I later found out, after 2 days. And then the most interesting part began. I didn't remember anything, who I was and where I lived. These people turned out to be hermits who lived very far away from our village in the woods. Ordinary elderly people who were able to bring me back to life. They didn't acknowledge any medicine, which is why they didn't send me to the hospital but treated me themselves. It took me a very long time to even walk again, and my memory didn't return to me. It took almost 2 years to learn how to walk and talk again. My memory suddenly came back to me. I simply woke up one morning and remembered about you and our son. You can't even imagine how much I missed you both. Mia didn't let her husband finish speaking. She just ran into his arms. She hugged him as if she wanted to hold him forever and never let him go. Diana watched this scene and cried quietly. There had never been such passion in the village. A similar situation could only be seen in a movie. Mia cried uncontrollably. So many sleepless nights and tears were shed for her husband, and now he was here. And just recently, she had come to the realization that he had actually died. She didn't understand. Perhaps it was all just a dream, and even asked Diana to pinch her. However, this was reality. The news that Sam had survived the accident spread very quickly. Many people were very happy with this news. Mia didn't even imagine that she would be so happy again one day. She looked at her husband and couldn't believe it was him. It always seemed to her like some kind of dream. He needed more time to fully recover. They went to the hospital almost every day, and before, Mia didn't like visiting such places. But now, she went there with great joy, just to hear that her husband was recovering quickly. It was a great happiness for her. Over these 3 years, she realized that she never stopped loving her Sam, but instead, her love only grew stronger. For little Harry, his father's return was not surprising at all. He had been waiting for him all these years and believed he would come back soon. The boy was overjoyed, and the next day they started working on their plan to build a wooden airplane like Ronnie's in the backyard. Mia was the happiest of all, watching her beloved husband play with their son through the window. She had missed him so much, and her emotions were overwhelming. Life quickly fell back into place as Sam regained his documents and started investigating the accident that killed the man who had stolen his identity. It took about 6 months to figure out that the man had been driving Diana's ex-husband that night. This was a huge blow for both Diana and Mia, but thankfully, Diana was able to handle the news with grace. Sam quickly found a new job and began providing for his family once again. Mia no longer needed to work, and she was able to return to her old life. They visited the recluses, people who had chosen to live far away from civilization, many times. It was surprising that the hermit grandfather was already 98 years old, yet he didn't look his age and led a very active lifestyle. His grandmother was about to turn 95, and they lived in the forest, eating berries, mushrooms, and meat. They used herbs they gathered themselves for medicinal purposes. They were very kind and extraordinary people, unfortunately without children. Mia and Sam visited them every summer, bringing them food and personal hygiene items. After all, it was impossible to live without some civilization. Today, Mia was looking out of the window and reminiscing about the terrible 3 years she spent without her husband. Thank God, it's all over now. Perhaps she felt he was alive. Otherwise, how else could she explain her inability to come to terms with his death? She tried to make herself believe it, but every evening she waited for him by the window. Mia stroked her stomach, where a new life was growing. She and Sam were expecting a baby girl. The woman quietly lay down on the bed where Sam was sleeping soundly. Kissing her husband, she stared out of the window at the starry sky. It was the same sky she was looking at on that dreadful day when her life had ended. And yet, that man was right, everything would be fine. But now it remained a mystery whether someone was sitting next to her or she was talking to herself. She would never know.